let's try solving this, number 10 here. First thing to do, if you've got some brackets in there, in this case, I would multiply out these brackets. So, in this case, I would suggest you multiply out the brackets. Often a good idea, but not always. So, you know, again, there's no one rule in these situations. But here I certainly would. I'd multiply out the brackets. So I'd get 6 times 2. Remember, multiplying out the brackets means that every term inside the bracket has to be multiplied by what's outside. So 6 times 2 is 12. Minus 6 times 3 is 18y. Minus 42 equals minus 2 times y is minus 2y. But then be careful here, because minus 2 times minus 1 is plus 2. So that's the first thing, multiplying out the brackets. Beware of signs, the double negative. Then collect together any numbers that I can, or any terms that I can. Here on the left hand side we've got 12 minus 42. Well, I can do that. That gives me minus 30. So I've got 18y minus 30 equals minus 2y plus 1. So I've multiplied out the brackets and then I've simplified it as much as I possibly can. Now the next thing to realise is that I've got y's on both sides of the equation. And I've picked this one because they're both negative. What I want to try and do is to make y's positive. So what I can do is to get all the y's on one side, I either add 18y to both sides, or to get rid of that and add 18y to this, or I could add 2y to both sides to get rid of that one. But if I add 2y, I'll still have minus 16y over here. So the best way to go is to add 18y to both sides. So that means 18y minus 18y, that's gone. So I've just got minus 30 over here equals 18y minus 2y is 16y plus 1. So now you can see I'm making it much easier as I'm going along. So now I've got to get y on its own, subtract 1 from both sides. Minus 31 equals 16y. So they might have made a mistake in here, because now if I divide both sides by 16, I don't get minus 2. It looks as though they've assumed it's minus 32. But looking at this thing, I don't think I've made a mistake. 6 times 2 is 12, minus 18y minus 42 equals minus 2y plus 1 plus 2. 1's 2 is 2. Thank you, Tom. So that should be a 2, that should be a 2. So now subtract 2 from both sides and I get minus 32. So they were right. So y equals minus 2, dividing both sides by 16. So you see the steps there. The key things are multiplying out the brackets, getting all the y's on one side if they're on both sides. If y's occur on both sides, getting them all on one side, and doing it such a way, if you can, to make it positive, and then get rid of everything else and leave y on its own, okay, in this case. Because I made a mistake. Minus 2 times minus 1 is plus 2, not plus 1. I had, okay, so that was just an error. Okay, let's have a look at another example while I've got your attention. In the next exercise, you have to do fractions you've got to multiply. Okay, so I want to look at a couple of these examples. Let's start off with this one, actually, because this is a bit more straightforward to think about. So let's look at this one. It is the first question in the next exercise. So this was exercise 32. I'm not going to do this question, I'm just going to start you off with it. And if you look at some of the work problems, you can see that they've done this sort of thing. So if I have this sort of thing to worry about, what I want to do is try and get rid of the fraction. If I want to get rid of the 4 here, then I must multiply by 4, and that gets rid of that 4 underneath in the fraction. Agreed? But if I'm going to do that, and we were discussing this, weren't we, earlier, if I'm going to multiply one thing by 4, I must multiply every term on every side, on both sides, by that 4. So in other words, I have to write, I'm going to write here in red what I'm going to do. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. So that means every term, that term, that term, that, and that, every term must be multiplied by 4. 2 4s are 8, plus, if I multiply this term by 4, the 4 cancels, which is what we wanted to happen. And I'm just left with 3y equals 4 1s are 4, plus 2/3 times 4 is 8/3, because I just multiply the top number by 4, plus again multiply the 5 by 4, I get 20 over 6. I've multiplied every term by 4. Yeah. Well, because I've times by 4, then. So if we look at this particular one, 2/3, I'm times it by 4, and that gives me 2 4s are 8 over 3, which is where this 8 over 3 comes from. So I can't get rid of the 3 yet. I can only get rid of the 4 here because I times it by 4. That was to get rid of that. I've not got rid of the 3 and the 6 yet, unfortunately. But what might I do next? Yeah, multiply everything by 3. Multiply every term by 3. And that will get rid of this 3 here. If that's easy for you, Tom, yeah, but I think this is easier because it's just more logical. When you've done that, multiply through by 6. So 1, 2, 3 steps. Tom's just made the point, wouldn't it be easier to multiply by the common multiple, actually, which is the number that they all go into? And then you could do that in one go, and you would get rid of them all in one go. 4 and 3 and 6 all go into 12. So if you try that, it leaves a bit of an awkward fraction that you want to simplify down. But yeah, that's a perfectly valid method. But I always try and just do it one at a time, especially because that applies itself really nicely to problems where you've just got letters. In this case, in that case, you would use this method. Okay. So I'll leave you to finish that problem off. Finally, before I leave you to carry on, let's look at this one. This is one of the work problems, work problem number 11. But I wanted to focus on this one just to help you out with it. Again, I'll start you off with it. Yeah. I want to get rid of, if we look at this, it's fractions. I want to get rid of the t minus 2 term. And I want to get rid of the 3t plus 4 term. Think what we did last time. How do I get rid of divide by t minus 2? Times by t minus 2. So multiply both sides by the t minus 2 term. That means I get, if I rewrite this whole fraction, you might see it. I just rewrite it, but then multiply by t minus 2. Multiply by t minus 2. Multiply both sides by t minus 2. That means I can cancel these, and I'm left with just 3. So I've got rid of the t minus 2 underneath. 3 equals 4 over 3t plus 4 times t minus 2. Yes, Alfie, you see that? What do I do now to get rid of the 3t plus 4? Times every term by 3t plus 4. So in other words, I get 3 times 3t plus 4 equals 4 times t minus 2, because the 3t plus 4 is gone on the right hand side. In the textbook it talks about the idea of cross multiplying. If I multiply both sides by t minus 2, that effectively shifts up to that side, and this effectively shifts up to that side. That's been the effect, look, if we look at it. But that's the reason, that's the logic behind it. And now we're in a similar position to where we were in an earlier question. This first question we looked at, which was this one, where I've got to multiply out the brackets and then collect together like terms and get all the t's in one side. Okay, so I'll leave you to finish that question off and multiply out the brackets and then see what you get. Okay, if you want to carry on through that and see if you can agree with the work problem solution. It's done for you, but see if you can do it and then check your own answer. And then when you're happy with the exercise that you're working on, try some of the ones in the next exercise. Okay, right, I'll stop there for a while.